Hello, I'm Katie Wilson and you're watching A News. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Trump signals war wind down as Iran threatens attacks beyond the Middle East. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees warns its Gaza operations are at risk. And Kazakhstan receives the full technical expert data for the Azal plane crash investigation. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. In the past few hours, Iran has reportedly launched 2 ballistic missiles towards Diego Garcia, but neither hit the joint US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean. President Trump says the US is considering winding down operations against Iran, but says other nations must guard the Strait of Hormuz.
Iran reportedly launched 2 ballistic missiles toward the US-UK military base on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. According to reports, the missiles did not hit the target. Iranian media described the strike as a significant step, claiming it shows the extended range of Iran's missile capabilities. Shortly after, explosions were heard in eastern Tehran. Iranian media said air defense systems were activated, suggesting possible incoming threats or heightened alert levels. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said he is considering reducing military operations in the Middle East. However, this comes as the United States is deploying additional forces, including 3 amphibious assault ships and around 2,500 Marines. Trump also claimed that there are no effective leaders left in Iran to negotiate with and described ongoing US military efforts as successful.
I want to begin by just saying we're doing extremely well in Iran. The difference between them and us is they had a navy 2 weeks ago. They have no navy anymore. It's all at the bottom of the sea. 58 ships knocked down in 2 days. And we have the greatest navy anywhere in the world. It's not even close. But we are doing really well. We're not going to let them have nuclear weapons, because if they had them, they'd use them, and we're not going to let that happen. Should have been done a long time ago by other presidents.
In Iraq, a fire broke out at a US diplomatic facility near Baghdad airport following reported drone attacks. A pro-Iranian group claimed responsibility for the incident. Additionally, the US military released footage showing strikes on vehicles and aircraft at an undisclosed location, stating that Iran's military capabilities are weakening. In Tehran, Iran's military spokesman warned that tourist sites and public spaces worldwide could become targets, raising fears that Tehran may expand attacks beyond the Middle East. In a Nowruz message, Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, emphasized the need for a resistance economy built on national unity and security. Khamenei also stressed the importance of strengthening ties with neighboring countries such as Afghanistan and Pakistan. He warned of alleged attempts by Israel to create divisions through deceptive operations. At the same time, President Masoud Pezeshkian struck a more conciliatory tone. Marking Nowruz, he said Iran does not seek conflict with its neighbors and is ready to resolve disputes through dialogue. Pezeshkian also urged countries in the region to reduce foreign military presence and work together to manage security, economic and political affairs.
Well, let's get more on the Strait of Hormuz, a vital shipping lane for oil as military activity continues to disrupt operations. Iran says it will allow Japan-linked vessels through, whilst the US has eased sanctions on Iranian oil. Global powers are urging calm and insisting on safe passage for all ships.
Tehran has said it is prepared to allow vessels linked to Japan to pass safely through the Strait of Hormuz, according to Kyodo News, citing Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. This comes as concerns grow over restricted access to the waterway following recent Iranian attacks on unarmed commercial vessels in the Gulf. Meanwhile, the United States has temporarily lifted sanctions on Iranian oil for 30 days, allowing the sale of around 140 million barrels in an effort to stabilize global prices. This follows US officials' estimation that the higher prices caused by the conflict could last for months. Earlier, Iraq has declared force majeure on oil fields operated by foreign companies after disruptions to shipments through the strait brought exports to a halt. International reaction has been swift. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands and Canada have issued a joint statement condemning what they describe as Iran's de facto closure of the strait. They say they are ready to take appropriate steps to ensure safe passage. South Korea has now joined that position, saying on Friday that its decision reflects concerns over energy security, global trade, and the importance of keeping international shipping routes open. From the United States, President Donald Trump has suggested that countries which depend on the strait, including China and Japan, should take a greater role in securing it. He said the US may assist if needed, but believes others should lead efforts to guard the route.
The strait itself is, we're doing a good job, but it would be nice if the countries, including China, if the countries that use it, China uses it 90% of their energy. Japan is 95% of the energy. It would be nice if those countries would get involved.
Shipping through the strait has already dropped sharply as the conflict has intensified. Recent attacks on commercial vessels have added to the risk, with reports of casualties among seafarers and thousands still stranded at sea under dangerous conditions. The situation is raising serious concerns for major oil producers in the region, including Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, all of which rely heavily on the strait for exports.
Israel's military said it's striking Hezbollah targets in Beirut on Saturday after issuing evacuation warnings for 7 neighbourhoods in the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital. Israel has stepped up airstrikes against Lebanon in the 3rd week of its war with Iran-backed Hezbollah. The conflict has become the deadliest spillover of the war, with over 1,000 people killed in Lebanon after the militant group fired at Israel in support of Tehran on March the 2nd. Well, Jordan says it is maintaining high alert after missile interceptions over its territory caused damage and injuries in parts of the capital. Our correspondent Maria Rodriguez Albalde reports.
These are the remains of a missile intercepted munition landing in this street in Amman. It's an area in the city center. Huge explosions are shaking the Jordanian capital every day, and also the sirens disrupt daily life. Here the population is tired and enraged at having to pay the price for a war that isn't theirs. The missiles are being intercepted over their territory before they reach Israel. So far, more than 30 Jordanians have been injured by falling debris following aerial interceptions. More than 20 missiles have been intercepted in the last 3 weeks from USA military bases in the border with Iraq and also Saudi Arabia. Authorities have made clear that the Hashemite Kingdom sits on a war footing. King Abdullah chairs regular crisis meetings. Military forces and anti-air defenses remain on a full alert, and the foreign ministry has declared solidarity with Gulf states hit by Iran. But Hashemite Kingdom again finds itself stuck in the middle of a disastrous regional conflict with no clear ending. Yet the challenge for Amman has not changed: maintain its pro-Western foreign policy as a matter of survival. Amman has managed to maintain its reputation as neutral party.
Well, the fallout from the war in the Middle East is being felt in many sectors, including tourism, as holidaymakers change their plans and head away from the Gulf. Spain, Italy, Greece and Morocco are seeing increased interests. Let's take a look at some of the areas in Spain which have become particularly busy.
There's been a noticeable shift from tourists towards Mediterranean and European destinations as travellers look for alternatives amid rising security concerns in the Middle East. Spain, in particular, is emerging as a popular alternative, with coastal resorts and city hotspots preparing for a seasonal rise in visitors. And it is currently leading this shift as the top destination attracting diverted interest. Popular spots such as Palma de Mallorca, Ibiza and Benalmádena are seeing people enjoying the beaches and city life, combining sun, sea and a taste of the local culture that had originally attracted visitors to the Gulf.
Spain would be the country, the destination receiving the most of that diverted inspirational demand, followed by Italy, Greece, then also Morocco is performing really well in terms of increase since all this conflict started.
Travel analysts say uncertainty in the region is already influencing where people are choosing to go.
If we consider the demand that could be redirected from these markets, Gulf countries, to Spain, we are talking about a type of visitor who is looking for a getaway that combines, in one hand, an urban setting, and in the other, a natural and active environment, which are the main attractions offered by these destinations in the Middle East.
Meanwhile, disruption to air travel continues, with flights being cancelled or diverted and large parts of Gulf airspace still restricted due to safety concerns. Industry experts warn that if the conflict drags on, airfares could rise as longer routes and higher fuel costs take their toll, though it remains unclear whether this surge in interest will lead to confirmed bookings.
The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has warned that its operations in Gaza are at risk. UNRWA's Commissioner General said financial shortfalls and ongoing attacks could force a halt to humanitarian aid for Palestinian refugees.
The head of UNRWA, Filipe Lazzarini, has warned that the agency is in serious danger. In a letter to the President of the United Nations General Assembly, he said that if UNRWA collapses, Israel could take over humanitarian work in Gaza. Lazzarini, who will step down on March 31st, said the agency has long faced financial problems. No permanent replacement has been named. He said the situation could make the political and security environment in the region worse.
Dismantling UNRWA is short-sighted. By doing so, we will sacrifice an entire generation of children, sowing the seeds of hatred, resentment, and future conflict.
He also pointed to Israeli attacks as a major challenge. A raid on the East Jerusalem office and the deaths of hundreds of staff during the Gaza war have hurt the agency's work. Lazzarini said Palestinian refugees have been betrayed. Israel accuses UNRWA of bias and passed a law in 2024 banning the agency from operating in the country. The US froze funding in January 2024 after claims some staff were involved in a Hamas attack.
If you get rid of an agency like ours before you have an alternative, you are also creating a huge vacuum. Remember what happened in Iraq in 2003. At the time, the entire administration has been dismantled. There was no alternative and people were left without any services.
UNRWA has helped millions of Palestinian refugees for decades. Lazzarini said the agency is vital for any Gaza peace plan. Without urgent support from UN member states, the region could face more instability. He will be temporarily replaced by Christian Saunders. Lazzarini was appointed by UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres.
Now, let's take a look at the major stories from the region. Kazakhstan says it has received all expert reports needed to complete the technical investigation into the December 2024 crash of an Azerbaijan Airlines flight near Aktau. Kazakhstan's Deputy Prime Minister says specialists from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan and Russia, along with the aircraft manufacturer and international aviation representatives, are now finalising their findings. The flight was en route from Baku to Grozny when it went down, killing 38 of the 67 people on board. Preliminary findings indicate that while approaching Grozny, the aircraft was struck by a Russian air defence system. Now, across Central Asia, governments are closely monitoring developments in the Middle East with rising concern over energy markets, logistics and security. In Kyrgyzstan, authorities have convened a Security Council meeting and completed another phase of evacuations of their citizens from the region.
A Security Council meeting has been held in Bishkek, chaired by President Sadr Japarov, as escalating tensions in the Middle East push regional security concerns higher on the agenda. Officials focused on national priorities, including food and energy security, and discussed additional measures to protect critical infrastructure. At the same time, Kyrgyzstan's foreign ministry says it has completed another phase of evacuations from the Middle East. The operation began after the situation worsened across several countries where around 22,000 Kyrgyz citizens were residing. Hundreds have since been evacuated on special flights, while thousands more have returned home independently. Regional analysts say the escalation is no longer just a localized conflict, but part of a broader geopolitical shift already affecting Central Asia. One of the most immediate impacts is energy. Around 20% of global oil trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz, and any disruption there drives prices higher. For Kyrgyzstan, that translates into rising fuel costs and more expensive goods. Logistics is another growing concern. Iran remains a key transit route for Central Asian countries seeking access to ports in the Persian Gulf. If the situation worsens, cargo flows may shift to alternative routes, including the Trans-Caspian corridor linking the region with Europe via the Caucasus and Turkey. In this context, experts note that major infrastructure projects such as the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan railway could gain new momentum as countries look to secure more stable and diversified trade routes. Parisa Kalimursina, Almaty, A News.
Now, March 21st is observed as International Nowruz Day, the ancient Persian New Year which marks the beginning of spring. Meaning New Day in Persian, Nowruz is celebrated by over 300 million people worldwide. The holiday has been observed for over 3,000 years across regions including the Caucasus, the Balkans, the Black Sea, Central Asia and the Middle East. And one of the countries marking Nowruz with celebrations nationwide is Uzbekistan, as President Shavkat Mirziyoyev used the occasion to highlight regional cooperation and international engagement in an address. Our correspondent in Tashkent brings us more.
The president of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, in his Nowruz address placed a strong emphasis on international cooperation, describing the holiday as a symbol of peace, friendship and dialogue between nations. He noted that for centuries, Nowruz has served as a spiritual bridge between peoples, a message that remains relevant in today's global context. Mirziyoyev reaffirmed Uzbekistan's commitment to strengthening regional ties, stating that Central Asian countries should act as a united voice to promote peace, stability and partnership across the region. At the same time, the president highlighted domestic priorities, noted that more than 130 nationalities living in Uzbekistan celebrate Nowruz together, a reflection of interethnic harmony and social cohesion. He also pointed to continuing efforts to strengthen Mahalla institutions, create jobs and support youth, describing the younger generation as key to country's future development. It is Ivra Jabbar, reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
And finally, we go to the Nowruz celebrations across Azerbaijan, with streets transformed into vibrant spaces filled with music, tradition and festivity. What began centuries ago has grown into a holiday that brings people of different cultures and backgrounds together. Nartichek Jahangali takes us to the heart of the celebrations in Baku.
Nature and the changing of the seasons is one of humanity's oldest traditions. The arrival of spring, in particular, continues to be marked in many forms and under many names across the world. Well, here in Azerbaijan and in many neighboring countries, we call it Nowruz. And this time, I invite you to explore it together.
For
thousands of years, people have believed that the arrival of spring is a victory over evil. After months of cold and darkness, the return of nature felt like something worth celebrating. From Central Asia to the Balkans, Zoroastrianism was the first religion to celebrate the new year, calling it Nowruz, which means new day in Persian. Over time, Nowruz became deeply rooted in people's lives and lost its religious meaning, turning into an important cultural tradition. Azerbaijan has preserved this tradition as an annual festival that celebrates its ancient roots, culture, and beliefs.
Here I personally showcase my handmade crafts. These bags, created under our national brand and decorated with traditional ornaments, are designed for nuts and candies. As you can see, everything from our clothing to our hats is made by hand by me.
The best thing I love about Nowruz is throwing hats to collect sweets and cookies.
Celebrated for more than 3,000 years, this holiday is observed by over 300 million people worldwide. It predates Islam by thousands of years, which is why it belongs to everyone. It crosses borders, religions, and ethnicities, something rare for a celebration that lasts more than a week. There is a wide variety of traditions within this festival, from rope walking to feats of strength, from folk dancing to singing. Everyone can find something to enjoy and cherish.
We are here for Nowruz and Ramadan Bayram, and also my wife and me, we are here for marriage anniversary.
I think it's important to celebrate spring as a way of renewing energies and especially in this moment of a little bit of tensions, to see a little bit of cheerful moments, people going out, enjoying time together and getting new energy for the new beginnings.
The light wins, the life wins. The light wins over darkness, the life wins over death. So for this reason, I guess since maybe thousands of years, people over here, over this geography, I guess including Iran, Kazakhstan and many other countries around, they celebrate this because this is the hope for the new life, for the new fruits, vegetables, for the new produce they can have from the agriculture and maybe from the animals as well.
This festival symbolizes not only the change of seasons, but also a deep spiritual renewal, aligning human life with nature's cycle of rebirth. Many elements of Nowruz reflect ancient beliefs, including reverence for fire, water, earth and wind. Among these, fire stands out as the most powerful symbol of the festival, often expressed through the lighting of bonfires. Above all, however, Nowruz is about hope. In the enduring struggle between good and evil, it ultimately celebrates the triumph of good.
I hope there's some shakabura left by the time I get there. That's your news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for more. Have a wonderful Nowruz if you're celebrating, and thank you for watching.